Hey y'all, how y'all doing? How y'all feeling? I hope all is well with y'all. So I'm gonna drop this video. We gotta talk about this story time. This ish is crazy. I have to admit, I did watch the whole thing. I binge watched it. It was that good. Okay, so I'm gonna let y'all watch it. But before we get into it, please take this time to like and subscribe to this channel. Push that notification bell so you're notified whenever I drop a video. And make sure again that y'all thumbs are lit. So, without further ado, we are going to talk about today's story time. Well, we're not going to talk about it. We're going to let her tell her story. It's crazy. Like, when I tell you I binge watched it, I mean I binge watched it. But no one can tell the story better than the person herself. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her onto the stage so she can do that.
Y'all how I spent 32. Let me tell y'all how I spent 32 long, dreadful, painful, just unbearable days in jail for a crime that I did not commit. Yes, you heard me. 32 days in Fulton County, Rice Street to be exact, jail. Okay, let's get into it. So I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, west side of Atlanta, born and raised on Simpson Road. If you're familiar with Atlanta, then you know Simpson Road. Okay. Stayed there from a child all the way up until I was 15 years old. Okay, at the age of 15, I found out I was pregnant with my oldest son, Noonan. Okay, so when my mom learned that I was expecting a child, she did what any mother would do, besides wanting to me. She jumped into mommy mode and started making, better living arrangements for us because obviously our family was expanding. Now, I come from a large family anyway. I am the third oldest of 13 siblings. Yes, my mom has 13 kids and I'm the third oldest. So the house was already packed, right? We're already at capacity. And on top of that, we're just in a 2-bedroom. Okay, so you got boys in one room, girls in the other room, my mama up front in the living room, and my stepdaddy in the room with the boys. So we were already in there packed, right? So we was gonna eventually have to move anyway. But again, with her finding out that I was expecting my first child, it just expedited the situation. Okay, so again, I have no say so. As I'm 15, no job, still in school, teenage mom to be. I have no say so as to where we're going. Okay, and so with that being said, my mom just went and put in applications, and I guess the first people to call her back just so happens to be these projects that was located off Bankhead called Bourne Homes, aka the Bricks. Okay, once again, if you're from Atlanta, you already know what's going on, what went down over there, what it was like. And if you not from Atlanta, you probably have heard about Bourne Home in songs from people like Shawty Low, because that's where he was from. He always ripped Bankhead, always ripped Bourne Home, and a few more other artists that came from Atlanta, again, that would, bring recognition to Bourne Homes. Well, my first time going to Bourne Homes outside of us moving out there in 2007 was back when I was in the 4th grade. I had met a friend in school and she lived there. And on the weekends, my mom would let me go over her house, to the sleepovers. And so I would just visit there. So I was about 10 years old at this time. And I would just hear stories from that friend about, how, the fun that they had over there, the not so fun things and stuff like that. And so it was when I got to middle school, when I met, some more friends outside of the friend from elementary school, and they were also too from Bourne Home. And so they would tell, these stories about, the crime that was going on out there, the rats, the roaches. But again, they made it seem so fun. So I started, the friend that I made in middle school, me and her became best friends. And so I started going over her house from, time to time. And it was there, just being over there, I seen a different side of those projects those stories wasn't just, it wasn't telling it, you had to just be there. You had to be there in, the actual physical form to just see what was going on. And so it was no place I would even imagine myself ever living. Again, I lived on Simpson Road, grew up there. Simpson Road is not the projects, it's the hood. Bourne Homes was the project. It was government ran and funded. So that was the difference, right? But nevertheless, it was what it was. Again, I had no say so. I just had to go with the flow. So we packed up and we moved off of from Simpson Road in June of 2002, and we moved to Bourne Home. Well, again, lo and behold, it did not disappoint. It lived it up to every expectation that I thought it would be, which was crime infested, ghetto. I mean, it was just an unpleasant place. My personal experience. Number one, I didn't want to be out there. I had, like I said, I had went to school with a lot of people that already had stayed out there, and so we would just do like this rivalry at school. Cause back in the '90s, early 2000s, if you beefed, it was like what zone you was from. Zone 1 beef was zone 3, zone 3 beef was zone 4, zone 4 beef was zone 6. I mean, you would rep your hoods. It was that type of thing. So we would have little rivalries and things like that in school. Everybody knew that I was from Simpson Road, me and my family, and some more people was from Simpson Road. So we'll do a little trash talk with people from different hoods like Bourne Home, Ferry Home, Bankhead Court, Hollywood Court, Elton Ridge. We even had a few people from Greater Home, Herndon Home, Harry Home, Capitol Home. I mean, you name it. It was just little friendly, some fights here and there, but nothing too crazy. So I definitely was a little bit embarrassed to be one of those people moving out there after I had just, I did all this trash talking, with these same people, at school. But it was nothing crazy. Of course, when I moved out there, they welcomed me with open arms. My friend that I was best friends with at the time, I moved directly in the building behind her. So, I had somebody's house I can walk up to and, walk over and see. But so again, like I said, I'm about 5 months pregnant at this time, and it is hot. Now, about the projects, there are no central air and there's no central heat. So it is, when in the summertime, when it's hot, and when the wintertime it's cold, because those bricks, that cement, conserve all the heat and air. So we had box fans in the window. We wasn't a family that was born with silver spoon. My stepdaddy was the primary breadwinner. He was the only one that was working in the household at the time. And back in, the early 2000s, he wasn't making a whole lot of money. Wages wasn't what they are today. So he made enough to kind of carry the family, through, but we had to make do with whatever else, that we had. So when we got to Bourne Homes, my mom bought box fans for all the windows upstairs. We had one central, I'm sorry, not central, but we had one AC unit downstairs, and that was for the downstairs. It was to cool the downstairs. So, I mean, I just remember my summer over there, my first summer over there in Bourne Homes, just being hot and miserable. And then on top of that, I'm pregnant. So my attitude was on. I hate it. I don't want to be here. I wish we would have never moved over here. I just was not for it at all. And, to my, not so surprising that within 2 months of us staying over there, I'm in the bed, sleep. It was at night. Don't recall what time. I just hear a whole bunch of gunfire go off, sounding like a marching band was right up on the. It really sounded like it was in my ear. That's how close it was. And I remember just balling up in the fetal position, holding my stomach. After the gunfire stopped, I remember getting up, looking out the window, and they had patios over there in Bourne Homes, so I couldn't see anything that was outside of the patio. When I looked out my room window, I only could see inside the patio. But I heard voices, I heard people talking, and I started to hear screams, and I started to hear people yell, saying, "Call 911, call 911." So I make my way downstairs, and I opened up our front door. We had a door, and we had a screen door. Well, when I opened up the front door, through the screen door, I could see a body that appears to be of a male laying right in the front of our door. Like, if I would have opened up the screen door and took a few steps, I would have been right there standing over him. And again, I just hear his loved one screaming, "Call 911, call 911." I run upstairs, I, tell my mom, which everybody heard the gunshot. So I tell him, like, "Hey, it's, somebody laying out front. I think he's, unalive. Like, I don't know, call 911." And just so happened, sadly, that person did, pass away from their injuries. So that was like the first wake up call that I had, being out there within 2 months. Like, I knew this was a bad idea. That's why I did not want to move out here. But again, like I said, I'm young. I don't have a job. I'm a teenage mom to be. I don't have a say so as to where we're going, and that I just gotta live with it and deal with it. And listen, did I not? So my mama, tried to make the best of it. Again, my stepdad was the primary breadwinner of the family. He worked, earned most of the income. My mama tried to, step in by becoming a candy lady. Okay, so she started selling candy out there, whatever the case may be. And of course, it's the projects, it's the hood. So quickly, and it was a candy lady literally in every, cul-de-sac. I guess you can call it a cul-de-sac. But my mom was she was the only candy lady right where we was. And so it would be a lot of traffic, a lot of traffic. But we got cool with the neighbors to the left of us. And they, she was cool on her children, her boyfriend at the time was super cool. And the ones to the right, I don't know. It was one of them that was a little strange. And I knew he was strange for a reason, not just because of how he would stare at me and others. It was just he had this sneaky presence about himself. And my suspicions pan out to be exactly right about him because he ended up robbing us blind. When I say blind, he robbed us while we were in the house sleep. I was pregnant. My mom had just found out she was pregnant, and my 65 at the time year old grandma who was living, he robbed us while we was in the house. Okay, so let me finish telling y'all on how I spent 32 long, painful, dreadful, disgusting days in jail for a crime that I did not commit. So on part one, I left off on telling y'all about that next door neighbor to the right, the one who gave me those sneaky vibes, the one who I just couldn't, something about him I couldn't put my finger on. And I told y'all that he ended up robbing us like a thief in the night, in the middle of the night while we were sleeping. He did just that. Let me tell you what he did. So again, my mom was a candy lady, right? So she sold things like candy, juices, drinks, chips, you name it, whatever. So he was a customer and he would come frequently throughout the day or whatever, buying little snacks and things like that. Well, lo and behold, we didn't know that he was, peeping the scene. So he was coming in, and then we in the projects. We don't have no more than what the next person got. We just might have had a little bit more materialistic things. Because again, my stepfather, he worked. He provided. So no matter where we stayed or what we was going through, we never looked like what we were going through. So, we moved to the projects and we had things like, the newest expedition truck. Granted, we had to have a big SUV. Again, like I told y'all, my mom had a lot of kids. I had a lot of siblings. So we had the, nice cars. And then my stepdad was into old school cars. So he had a nice Caprice. They called it the bubble Caprice. He had a nice bubble Caprice, rims on there, things like that. So, and we had like the Xbox. We had like the PlayStation. I think at the time, maybe it was PlayStation 2 or 3. I don't know. But again, we had nice things. We didn't have a lot of money. We just had nice things. So he would come in and he would buy things again. And at that time, we're not even realizing he peeping out the scene. Well, this particular weekend when he robbed us blind, my stepdad, along with the rest of my siblings, had went to the Carolinas. Myself, along with my mom and my great grandma at the time who was living, stayed back. And so he came earlier that day, purchased some snacks or whatever the case may be. And I think it was then where he started to put two and two together to kind of realize, okay, they here by themselves. Because normally when people will come by to buy candy or whatever, you will see a house full of people, like my siblings, running every which way or whatever. So, and also too, the family car was gone. The expedition, the truck was gone. So it didn't take a rocket science to figure out that, okay, the car that normally be here every day ain't here. I go in there, I buy some candy, whatever. You only see the pregnant girl, the mama, and the grandma, the old lady, So everything after that, I cannot tell y'all truly what happened from the time he stepped foot in the house to rob us from the time he left out and I woke up the next day. And I'm going to tell you why I can't tell you guys, because I was asleep. I don't know if that was one of those pregnancy sleeps where I was just knocked out cold. I didn't hear anything or see anything. And if I could just draw a layout of my room to you guys, it'll be kind of hard to believe me as to, for me to say I didn't hear or see anything, because the way you come up the steps, my room would be to the left I see directly so the way my room was facing and the way I had my bed set up, I could see everything coming up those steps. And right in the middle was there is like a, I don't know, closet or whatever, or just a big open space where you can store things. Well, that's what he did. So he came up the stairs. Okay, he got all the stuff downstairs, the PlayStation, the Xbox, of course, all of the games to go with the PlayStation and the Xbox. He even stole candy. Of course, a thief is a thief. They'll steal the drawers off of you if they could. And a television. I mean, he wiped downstairs clean. Well, my boy was so bold, he went upstairs to look for the boxes that the Xbox and the PlayStation came in, which just so happens to be in that closet that sat alongside of my room. And he got that. So you would think that I would have heard him when he came up those steps and went in that closet, but I didn't. I was knocked out. I think my grandma at the time, it been so many years ago, but I think she slept with her room door closed, so she would have not have heard him, not easily at least, and as well as my mom. Again, me and my mom, we both carrying at the time, we both expecting, so we probably just was, dog tired. Nevertheless, I wake up the next day and I go downstairs for whatever reason, and I notice, first thing I notice is gone is the TV. And then I kind of look around, I see the candy over there, that area where the candy was, that's rummaged through. I see the PlayStation gone, I see the Xbox gone. And I turn around and I run, kind of sprint back upstairs. And I'm like, Mom, I think somebody broke in the house. Like, I'm telling her, TV gone, all these things gone. Sure enough, my mama come downstairs. She looked, she verified, yes, of course, my eyes not playing tricks on me. These things are truly really gone. So, again, with my stepdad and the rest of the family being in the Carolinas, we placed a call, let them know. We also, too, called the police, to do a report or whatever the case may be. They was, this at the time, crime was so high over there, they wasn't surprised. It was surprising to us because we wasn't used to this, you know what I'm saying? This was the first time anybody had ever broke in, and let alone while we were still in, while we were inside the home. But nevertheless, they took the report. They even offered to do fingerprints, to dust for some fingerprints, because he left a lot of fingerprints. He touched some areas, and you could tell where he left fingerprints. Well, it didn't take us long to figure out or to even suspect that it was him, because again, he was already known around the neighborhood. They was talking, saying that he is a person that breaks in people's houses and breaks in people's cars. So he truly was like suspect number one, but it was just the fact that he was just there that day to buy some candy or whatever the case may be. And he was asking specific questions about the PlayStation. He was like, what kind of games y'all got for this, that? So it was almost like 1 + 1 was equaling 2. But you didn't have true proof that it was him. It was just our gut feeling said that it was him. We just speculated that it was truly him. And then he started acting suspicious out there. He was already, creepy and weird, to say the least. But he just started acting a little bit more suspicious, pacing up and down the sidewalk. He went from speaking to now you're no longer speaking, side-eyeing, that type of thing. So by the time my stepdad returned back from the Carolinas, he went to go confront him as a man would, as a man should, man to man, like, hey, did you break in our house? Did you take these items? Of course, he denied everything, said it wasn't him, so forth and so on. But because we didn't have true solid proof, we had to move on. It was just like, but we knew deep down inside, we knew that it was him who did it. And just the fact that you would come in there while these vulnerable women, again, I'm pregnant with my son, my mom's pregnant, and my 65-year-old grandma. And when you walk, all I could think about was the fact that he walked up those stairs. And I would sleep back then I used to sleep with my room door open. When he walked up them stairs and he seen me sleep right there, like, it didn't, I guess, alert him to turn back around, like maybe she'll hear me, maybe she'll see me, she'll wake up. No, he proceeded to go in that closet or in that middle hallway and get those boxes to these things that he was stealing, and didn't give a damn. And Lord, and I thank God that I didn't wake up, because who's to say what he would have done to me, my mom, or my grandma if we would have woke up. It was probably best that we didn't. But that just sent me over the moon. Like, I was like, the fact that we got robbed by our neighbor while we were in here sleeping, it just basically told me, like, listen, this a different type of level for you guys. Like y'all ain't used to living like this. Like we come from a place of, hard not, but this is a different type of hard not life. So, that was that. So, but it gets crazier with him. But I pause with him and then I pick back up. But my auntie, which is my mom only sister, she heard about what went on and things like that, and she, being the great auntie that she is, an amazing big sister that she was. I'm sorry, she's a little sister. Amazing sister that she is. My auntie, she goes and buy everything over. She buys a new PlayStation. She buys a new Xbox. She even bought a home security alarm system. We probably was the only ones in the project with like a home security system. But she buys all these things, and it was like the next day. So for them to see, to know that, oh, their house was the one, and when I say they, I mean in the neighbors, because it was a talk around, the area, like, oh yeah, their house got broken into, and then for them to see these same items being towed right back into the house within 24 hours later, a lot of people was probably like, hmm. But so that is what I feel like started the just hate train with us. Part 3 coming soon. Okay, so let me finish telling y'all on. Hey y'all, I am back with story time. How I spent 32 days in jail for a crime I did not commit. Part 3. The hate train has arrived to the station. So as a lot of you all may know, I left off on part 2 telling y'all about the burglar, aka Sticky Finger Bandit, aka Thief in the Night, aka Next Door Neighbor, right? And you remember I told y'all how he broke into our home while myself, my mom, and my grandma was sleeping and robbed us of a lot of things: electronics, candy, cleaning supplies, you name it. My boy came in and wiped us clean. And as I stated in my last video, my stepfather, along with my other siblings who lived in the home with us, was away on a trip in the Carolinas. And so when my stepfather returned home, he approached, the thief, and asked him, was he the one that burglarized our home? He denied it, and that was that. Okay, so fast forward. I've given birth to my oldest son, Noonie. I am now pregnant with my middle son, Dre. So by the time I went on my 6-week checkup to after I had Noonie, I was finding out I was pregnant again with Dre. So at this point, I don't know if I'm coming or going. There's a lot going on, and I'm still in school. I'm in my junior year at this time. So my mom is she is a nervous wreck at this point. She's like, girl, again. But my mom being the trooper that she is, being my rock, my backbone, always have been. She didn't judge, she just said, hey, Nene, we're gonna figure this out. So the summertime is approaching. Now we're in 2003, right? I'm preparing to have Dre in fall. And their father, who my high school sweetheart, we decided to, move. He had just graduated from high school. And so he found us an apartment on the south side. And we ended up roommating with one of his friends. The roommate situation, ideal setup, seemed, nice because, the roommate who the boy's father was friends with, he also too, he was married, and she already had a son that was 2 years old. So Nuna was 1, and I was pregnant with Dre. She was also pregnant with a child. So the setup kind of was like, okay, coincide, like it was perfect. So we moved in over there. The first couple of weeks started off decent, but little did we know we was moving in with the roommates from hell, and not more so of the wife. It was the guy, the boy's daddy friend. He was a hot mess. He was extremely, extremely abusive to his wife. Like he would physically beat her. I would be me and Drew, and at the time I hadn't gave birth to Andre yet. It was just Noonie. We'll be in the other room and they're trying to watch TV or anything, and we just hear her screaming and hollering. You hear things flying across, it sounds like things are being thrown. It was just a mess. So, I would ask Drew sometimes, to intervene, like go in there, break it up. And, he would step out, the room and, talk to him, and he'll come back in and say, okay, he said he ain't gonna, he gonna stop and he ain't gonna hit her no more. But he continued to do it, and so much so to the last final straw when he put his hand on her. We was all in the living room watching TV. She had just went through his phone and seen that he was texting and having relations with another girl, and she confronted him about it. While we were all sitting right there, he got extremely upset. Of course, you can might imagine defensive, and he jumped up, started getting in her face, and then from there he mushed her, and then he started pounding on her like she was, a sack of potatoes. And I'll never forget, that girl got up, because I grabbed Drew. Again, I prayed with Dre. I snatched Drew Noonan. I snatched him up, put him, in my arm, and I'm trying to head to our room, and I'm screaming at their dad, like, break it up, break it up. And he looking like. And so she goes in the kitchen, she get a knife, she charged at him. When I tell y'all, it took my boy's daddy, Drew, because his name was Drew as well. So if you hear me saying Drew, that's who I'm talking about. But it took Drew like 10 seconds to pry that knife out that girl's hand. She was at him for blood. So nevertheless, after that, the police was called, and from there the police returned back to their home every day, coming out to arrest him. Number one, it was done in front of children. He assaulted her. Number one, in front of children. Number two, she was pregnant. Number three, she was his wife. So it was domestic. So he called Drew like, hey man, I ain't gonna be able to live there no more. Police keep coming there every day. I'm bound to go to jail. Woo, woo, woo. So we just decided to move back home, which I was homesick anyway. So Drew ended up going back to his parents' house. I ended up going back to Bourne home to my mom's house. Well, not too long after I returned home, Drew ended up moving out of his parents' house to Bourne homes with me and my family. And again, we in a 5-bedroom. So it was just enough space, because at that time I had gave birth to Andre. So we're in 2004 now. At this point, I had gave birth to Andre. And so we making it do what it do. It's tight, but we making it do what it do. Okay, so when I moved back home in January of 2024, again, like I said, Drew came a few weeks after that, and now all of us are there. Baby, that's truly when the neighbors got this saucy. Now, Drew, was the only child. He was his mom and his dad only child. So he was spoiled. He was extremely nice looking. He was like that guy that just could get girls just off of walking into a room. So you can about imagine him moving over there to the projects. He wasn't from there. He was, grew up, almost in the suburbs, to say the least. So he gets over there, and he is like fresh meat on the block. I mean, the neighbors, he get out the car, they like, So just so happened that neighbor to the right, Sticky Finger, he lived there with his mom, who had quite a few children as well. And he had this one sister who thought she was God gift to me. When I tell you, Miss Fine will walk, she had to walk on her, honey, you'll be thinking to yourself like, she must got some good down there the way she walking. And I had been hearing little rumors and stuff like that she was like saying, like, oh, he fine, like what he doing with her, and I'm gonna take him from her, and just little stuff people were coming back telling me that she was saying. So I already had my third eye on her. What I'm saying? She would be walking up and down the sidewalk, like me and him sitting outside or whatever. She walking up and down the sidewalk, throwing trash away 5 times within 30 minutes with some short song, ass cheeks hanging out. So I could tell my girl was extremely thirsty. Speaking of thirsty, hold on. But yeah, I could tell my girl was extremely thirsty for his attention. So I would just, again, I stayed to myself. Like I said, I'm Drew working. I'm going to school, coming home, keeping my children, trying to maintain staying out the way. Well, that would be short-lived, because obviously, again, we're in the hood. We're in the projects. We're in Bourne home. Ain't no staying to yourself. Ain't no minding your business. Ain't no staying out the way. It was none of that. So we get a neighbor to move across the street from us. And I said across the street, but actually she moved across the field. And I'm not going to say her name. I'm just going to call her the neighbor from hell. And when I tell you everything about this lady screamed trouble, trouble, trouble from the moment her and her children moved over there, it was. So I had heard about her just off of hearsay. Again, it's the hood people, the gossip people talk. She had moved from the projects, some more projects that was down the street from Bourne home. So she already guess had a reputation on the west side. I'm not sure. And I knew her son because I went to school with her. I went to middle school with her son. So when I saw her son, I recognized him immediately. But I did not know her or any of the other siblings. I just only knew her oldest son, which he was pretty cool. He didn't bother me, kind of stayed out the way. Baby, he was the total opposite from his mama. So she moves out there, and when she first comes, she move out her stuff. She pull up in the Crown Vic, unload the whole car, children everywhere, boxes, mattress, you name it. Like she literally moved her whole family in that Crown Vic. Well, a couple of weeks into her moving over there, she gets into it with another neighbor over there. I'm asleep. I hear a bunch of commotion. Normally, like I tell y'all, every time something happens, I'm asleep. Remember, I'm asleep. I hear a bunch of commotion. I look out the window. I see look like two objects in the middle of the field. They look like they squabbling. I hear a little something. I go in there and tell my mom, like, hey, look like they out there fighting, but I go lay back down. The next day, I hear all the details. She done bust, the neighbor from hell, she done took a bottle and she done cracked it on the head of this other neighbor. I'm saying that the neighbor owed her some money. She said she sold the neighbor some drugs. The neighbor didn't pay her, and she busted laid upside the head. Now that is truly the first time I got like a whiff in, a wind of the type of person that she was. Baby, it gets 50 times worse. When I tell y'all worse, stay tuned for part 4, Neighbor from Hell. All right, y'all, this is part 4, story time of how I spent 32 days in jail for a crime I did not commit. The name of this part is The Neighbor from Hell. Now, on part 3, I left off on telling y'all about the neighbor from hell, whose name shall remain nameless. And I was telling y'all about how she got into an altercation with another neighbor in that same parking lot about some drug money or whatever they said it was about. Now, after she done cracked this lady upside the head with a glass bottle and didn't go to jail, I don't know if the lady called the police on her. I don't know what happened with that. But after she did that, she walking around like her shit don't stop, like she missed untouchable, right? So I'm peeping the scene. I'm hearing a lot of stuff going on. I'm seeing a lot of stuff, but I'm staying in my lane. Okay, one day, now mind you, before I say this, I was what you call a kitchen tissue. I did hair. I've been doing hair since I was 11 years old. So I would have people coming from my school, people coming from my old neighborhood, my friends, family members, and then I had started doing some of the people in the neighborhood where we were staying at hair. So she, I guess, caught wind of this, and one day she approached me about doing her hair. Now, given the fact that she already done hit this lady upside the head and all this old other mess, I didn't, I was like, okay, money's money. I ain't gonna. So I agreed to do her hair. I go over there. I go to her house because my mom had already said that lady can't come up in here. She's like, you got to go over there and do it, which she stayed right across the field from us. So I go to her house. I do her hair. Now, I don't really remember too much about the conversation, just more so that I did her hair. We talked, but it's been so many years ago. I don't remember the conversation verbatim, but I knew then that was going to be my last time doing her hair. I think at the time, her kids was ripping and running, screaming. She was cursing, and then she was talking about everybody in the area, like trying to get some information. She was asking me about this third neighbor. So I knew then that was going to be my last time even, being that close to that lady. And so, it was. Okay, so let's fast forward things. Let's move things on. So y'all know, again, we got next door neighbor, aka the thief. I noticed one day that he is walking back and forth to her door. He'll go to her house. He'll walk back to his house. Go to her house or apartment. Go to her apartment. Walk back to his apartment. Going back and forth. So then it became a little buzz, in the neighborhood that they were seeing each other. Okay, good for them. She wasn't the baddest bitch, and he definitely was not. He wasn't no Denzel Washington. He wasn't no Idris Elba. So nevertheless, it wasn't an odd combo. So, okay, like I said, so now you got the thief and you got the neighbor from hell. Now they seeing each other. Okay, so keep in mind when I told y'all on part 1 how he robbed us blind. And my stepdad, confronted him and asked him, was he the one that broke into our house? And he denied everything. But of course, we didn't have no evidence. We just kind of knew intuition, and plus, word around the neighborhood, because he was a thief. That's what he did. He broke in people's cars. He broke in people's houses. So one day, the neighbor from hell, tells another neighbor that he confesses to her that he was the one that broke into our house. And what made me believe this person who told me this, because she was in details as to what was taken, because we didn't share this information with anybody, not at least the people that was telling her this. We didn't share that with them. She was in details as into what was taken. She even told me that he said I was asleep, which I was. That my mom. So it was too many details that this lady had got from the neighbor from hell, coming from what the thief had told her, that confirmed. Okay, yeah. So now my boy bragging about it. Now he done got with him and neighbor from hell. They together, and now he telling her like, yeah, I broke in their house. This, that. So I go and tell my mama the information that I heard from another neighbor, but nobody was surprised. We always knew it was him. We always knew it was him. So he called himself liking my auntie, the same auntie that I told y'all replaced all the items that he sold, the PlayStation, Xbox. She bought us a home security system or whatever the case may be. So he called himself liking her. Now, I love my auntie down real bad. I do. That's my girl. That's like my second mama. If you see her, you see me. You'll think we mother and daughter. So I'm not gonna shame my auntie on this, but I will say I don't know what the hell my auntie was thinking about for even having a 3-minute conversation with him. But I kind of hate she entertained him, but I'm kind of glad she did. So the reason why I hate she entertained him was because when my auntie would come over there to visit us, I guess, I don't know, he said something to her, whatever the case may be. Then my auntie started giving him conversation, giving him attention. And the neighbor from hell would be out her window, peeking out the blind, looking out the screen door, watching him sit in the car talking to my auntie. And she obviously, again, she done got mad by now. At this point, she jealous. So he goes to tell her, the thief goes and tell my auntie that the neighbor from hell don't like us, right? Oh, she don't like y'all. She hate y'all. She said y'all think your sister think that she all that. She said this. She said that. So he's pillow talking. He's telling my auntie everything the neighbor from hell is saying about us. But then also too, he's leaving out of the conversation with my auntie, going and telling the neighbor from hell whatever it is that my auntie's saying. So that's what cooked things, right? That's what stirred up the pot. That's what really got this thing brewing and cooking. So we expressed how we felt about my auntie talking to the thief or even conversating with him, because it didn't go as far as them having conversations, but it was what it was, right? But that is truly what was the tip of the iceberg that really just spiraled things out of control. Okay, so the neighbor from hell, keep in mind, you remember I told y'all she had a lot of children. Well, and my mom had a lot of children too, smaller siblings up under me. So the neighbor from hell children and my siblings, they became friends. They went to school together. They would play together outside. Well, you know how children do. Children can fight, kick ass one day, and the next day they be playing like nothing ever happened. So that's what was taking place between the neighbor from hell children and my younger siblings. They would fight each other, run in the house, tell my mama, say, hey, don't you take your ass back over there. Don't you play with her no more. I'm sure the neighbor from hell was telling her children the same thing. Next thing you know, we turn our backs, them kids back out there playing. That's what children did. Well, of course, they don't realize as children that they can do that. Fight, make up the next day. Grown people don't know how to do that. So it was getting these grown people involved. Now the grown people get involved when these kids are fighting and going back and forth with each other. Well, sure enough, it got, so it will be heated. So again, her children, my siblings will fight, they'll become friends. Well, we started to notice that she just became super weird, right? Remember I told y'all she moved over there in a Crown Vic. When we first got over there, my stepdaddy purchased Expedition, right? Because we were a large family, we needed an SUV. Well, not too long after she get there, she go get the exact same SUV and in the exact same color. right? Remember, I told you my stepdad had already had he had a Capri, a bubble Capri. She moved over there in a Crown Vic, but it was a plain Crown Vic. My stepdad always been into loud music and rims. That's just him. She go put loud music in her car and rims. So we noticed this strange, pattern about her, like she was trying to almost in a sense copy of us, right? So I'm like, Mama, this lady stick obsessed with us. Like everything we outside chilling on the front porch out there having family time. She'll come out there with her children, turn her the music, same thing. She was extremely weird. You would have thought that somebody antennas would have went up and say, "Hey, watch this lady, watch this lady." But we knew to this. We ain't from the hood. We not used to this, right? So you got the thief telling my auntie stuff about the stuff, what the neighbor from hell is saying about us, and then you got him running over there telling the neighbor from hell stuff about my auntie, and that is truly again. And then the kids are fighting, making up. You got my baby daddy out here looking like a mixture of Chris Brown and Drake. So everybody want him at this point. So it's just all eyes is on us, and tension is brewing. It's brewing. And it just finally comes to a head when the neighbor from hell called herself trying to confront my mama about them children fighting. Not keeping in mind that it's already 13 of us. Well, at the time it wasn't 13, it was only 10 of us. Stay tuned for part 5. All right, y'all. Without further ado, it's been long overdue. Welcome back. This is part 5 of how I spent 32 days in jail for a crime I did not commit. Okay, as a lot of you may already know, I left off on part 4 telling you guys about the neighbor from hell and how things started to brew up between her and my family, and basically how tensions just were thick. Her children and my younger siblings would fight, and then they'll fight and make up. And not only was that going on, it was just other animosity and jealousy going on in the in the area that we was living inside of our homes. So things was bound to spill over, and sure enough they did. Well, the neighbor from hell had put out a rumor about, at the time, my 14-year-old sister, and was saying that she was pregnant. Well, I don't know where she got that silly accusation or thought from. Basically, she said that because my sister was walking around with a jacket on in the summertime. Now, mind you, this was back in 2007. So if they doing that now in 2024, it ain't nothing new up under the sun. So she put the rumor out there that my sister was, again, my 14-year-old sister was pregnant, and people was coming back telling my little sister, as well as my mom and myself and other family members. So eventually, she was going to get confronted one way or the other, but at first, my mom just opted into just letting it go, right? She's like, ain't nobody studying that lady, let it go. She miserable. She did. I'm like, no, somebody need to say something to her. Okay, well, one day my little sister go to school, and the counselor pulled her in the office, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, because again, it's been so many years ago, this was in 2007, I think the social worker was there, and they asked her, was she, expecting a child? So it had made it all the way, to the school. And which, at this point, everybody, as far as my family members goes, we are very upset. And so I never forget, it was a Friday afternoon. I worked in the morning. So my schedule was from 7 a to 3 p. I had worked for AT&T. Well, when I first started working for the company, it was Bell South, but AT&T merged with Bell South, and it just became AT&T. So anyway, I'm at work. And I had been, talking to my mom throughout that day, just kind of checking the temperature, seeing, making sure with nothing crazy going on and everything was, okay. Now, mind you, I told you I am the third oldest of 13 siblings. I have 2 older sisters. And my oldest sister, who I'm just going to call her Leo, that's her sign, she's a Leo. Well, she don't disappoint. She's a mighty Leo. She live up to her sign. And so she's like that sibling, that family member that just don't play about her family. Like, she truly is that one call that's all. She pull up, is zero talking, zero understanding, point them out. This is what's going on, right? So we had been keeping her in the loop of things that was going on between us and the neighbor from hell. And she had been saying, like, she gonna come over there one day and just sit and just peek the scene and see if, the neighbor from hell still got that same, what I'm saying, pressure when she get that type of thing. So again, it's a Friday. I get off work. I stop at the package store. I get some wine coolers. I think at the time it was those little Parrot Bay wine coolers and some I don't know, but it was something small. It was weak. It was nothing crazy. It was the wine coolers, right? So I come home and not too long after, my older sister, both of my older sisters make it over there. So now it's both my older sisters, myself, my mom, of course, and everybody else who live in the house. We are in the neighbors, our neighbors to the left, not the thieves to the right, but the neighbors to the left, who I told you we was cool with. So we all outside. We sitting on the front porch. We got our chairs out there on the front. Well, I say front porch. It wasn't no porch. It was a patio, basically. But we right there in the front patio. We just, laughing, talking, drinking, music going. Okay, so I guess neighbor from hell, remember I told y'all she was obsessed with us. She copycated everything from the type of cars we drove to my hairstyles to everything. She was just a weirdo, right? So she calls her sister over there. Now, mind you, I had seen her sister in the past, and hell, I thought it was her mama because she looked at every bit of about 50 years old. She used to wear a bad wig, and she didn't know how to dress. Like, she dressed it like Medea with a bad wig. So, and that sister from here, the neighbor from here, sister also too. I can call her the sister from here. I just gave her name. Okay, the sister from here. So the neighbor from here, sister from here, she also too had a lot of children. And so this particular day, again, we outside, we vibing, whatever, right? And so the sister from hell pull up, and she go over there. She see, of course, we across the field from each other, so we can kind of see, everything when you out front. So she goes over there. They pull their chairs out. Now they got their music playing again. She's a copycat. That's what she did. So they got their music playing, and it would appear to be a normal Friday afternoon / evening. Well, that was very much short-lived, because again, it's the projects, it's the hood, the devil is always born. Okay, so now earlier that week, you remember I told y'all about the rumor, right? And the rumor that the neighbor from hell had put out about my 14-year-old sister. My mom confronted the neighbor from hell. She was walking to the trash can. The neighbor from hell was walking to the trash can, and my mom was just like, I guess she had enough. She's like, I'm gonna go say something to her. And so my mom, of course, I'm right behind my mama, stepping with her. So she meet the neighbor from here in the middle of the parking lot once she came from the trash can. And she basically just asked her, like, why are you out here spreading rumors? Well, the neighbor from here, denied it. I didn't say that. But everybody had said that she was the one that was saying it, right? Even the young girls who my sister was friends with was coming back telling my little sister that she was the one that was saying it, about her supposedly being pregnant. So, okay, she denied it, and it's just words exchanging going back and forth. Well, the thief, who at the time was seeing the neighbor from here, remember I told y'all, I think I had already told y'all that they was in a relationship. And I think that by now at this point, she had at least one child by him. So they had gotten into a relationship, and she got him, he got her pregnant, and they together. Well, he's out there, and of course his family. So it's a crowd, because it's a bunch of sound like a bunch of chickens heckling, basically. And so I never forget, I was letting my mom was holding her own, she didn't need for me to kind of jump in there. But I never forget me, looking at the neighbor from hell and asking her, I was like, so let me ask you something. I said, did my little sister pee on a stick for you? And she was like, what you mean? I said, did she take a pregnancy test for you? She was like, nah. I said, so why you around here saying she pregnant as if you just know? And she was like I said, I didn't say it. So it's just a bunch of I didn't say. I said, so I'm one of the ones, I got a mouth on me. Like, what Monica said, sometime I had to fight because my mouth was slid. Like, listen, I got some comebacks, right? So I remember, we was going back and forth, and I remember saying, she said something about her man, which she was referring to the thief. And I was like, girl, don't nobody want him. I said, if I want him, I could have him. And I remember, y'all, she kind of shoved him towards my direction and was like, bye, go over there with her. She said if she wants you, she can have you. That's just how slow she was. She was like that type of slow. And he was like, man, go ahead on, man. Man, I don't like her. I said, I don't like you either. My y'all, he was black, crusty, ugly. Black, crusty, ugly. Like, it was just, again, it was me jabbing back at her. It never gave I wanted him. It never. Right? So fast forward again. So that happened in the middle of the week. So tensions again is already brewing. So when Friday come and we out, on the front porch and, talking, having fun, laughing, listening to music, drinking, whatever. So one of the little girls come and tell my little sister that the neighbor from hell said she gonna fight my mama. Right? The little girl walked over there, told us. So my little sister came flying down the sidewalk. Mama. So-and-so says she gonna fight you. And so by now, of course, both of my older sisters was over there. We all like, who said what? Like, what? And you can say, like, looking back at it now, it didn't dawn on me then when this happened, but now I realize that she probably sent that little girl to, deliver that message, because it's like soon the little girls told my little sister, and my little sister ran and told us what she said. And we was like, she said what? And we all kind of stood up. They stood right up with us. They being the neighbor from hell and her sister and their children. It was almost like y'all would have had to be there to see. It was like a movie. Like everybody stood up at one time. And so we go marching to the middle of the field, right? Because at this point you say you finna do what, the who, right? Y'all, part 6 is when the egg got cracked open and everything that could go left went exactly that way. Now, keep in mind for part 6, I'm going to be very detailed, but I'm going to be very discreet with some of the words I use, because it's some words you cannot say on TikTok. So I'm going to be very discreet, but I'm going to be very detailed. Y'all stay tuned for part 6. All right, y'all.
Y'all, you can't tell me that this story don't have y'all wrapped all up in it. Now, if it don't, y'all let me know. But this is interesting. Like, from start to finish, I love that she's from a big family. I'm from a big family. I just always wanted a big family. It's crazy that her and her mom were having babies at the same time and all of that. But the neighborhood drama, ooh. So you move into some place and your neighbor is the one that robs you blind, while you and your mom are pregnant? Insane. Whew. This is crazy. Okay, I think I'm gonna give you guys another one before I end it, and then we'll have to make another part because it gets long. So let's go ahead and go to the next one.
Yeah, the other button. Part 6. Y'all see how I'm dropping them back to back? Not keeping y'all waiting. Don't want to get cussed out no more. Not keeping y'all waiting. So part 6, story time. How I spent 32 days in jail for a crime I did not commit. Okay. So I left off on part 5 telling y'all about the little girl coming telling my sister that the neighbor from hell said she was going to beat our mama up. Our little sister coming telling our mama what the little girl told her. We standing up. Everybody rose up to the occasion and walked towards the middle of the field. The neighbor from hell, her sister, their children, my mama, and her children, my siblings. We all walk, meet up. At this point, we trying to see, we trying to see what's going on. Who,
right?
What
are you
gonna, do what you say you're gonna do. Well, as we meet up in the middle of the field, my stepfather and the boy's dad, they come behind us. Nah, y'all come on. So the men pulling and tugging. Y'all need to be doing all this, man. Y'all cut that out. So the men pulling the tug. The men get us back, in front of the patio. But of course, it's gone. It's not even far gone, but it's at that point, it was just gone, right? So the neighbor from here, her folks walk back on their side. They sit down, we sit down, right? Music still going. At this point, it's what you call jugging, right? You know how you jug dance? You get up, you do a little dance, and then you sit down, and then they do a little dance. That's what it was going, right? That's what was going on at the time. So again, y'all, it's been so long ago. I can't really tell y'all exactly what happened to make the neighbor from hell and her children and the sister and her children come back on their side, but they did. But when they did, it is truly when all hell broke loose. The neighbor from hell, the sister from hell, and their children walked up. The neighbor from hell got in my mama's face, and by now, I'm standing to my mama right. My oldest sister Leo, she's standing to my mama right. Sagittarius, she's standing to my mama left. Right? The men is in the back. Because at this point, they like, we already done got y'all, broke y'all up one time. We already done made y'all come back on this side one time. Like, the men is just like, at this point, I don't know what my stepdaddy and my son's father was thinking, but they was over it. Well, neighbor from hell, she walks up and she grabs at my mom's shirt, like pulls her, in. Well, when she pulls at my mama's shirt, Sagittarius, my sister, to the left of my mama, bloop, right? Gave her a look, across the cranium. And Leo, she coming from the right side. Now, mind you, sister from hell is fumbling with her purse. Something. She had like a fanny pack purse, some pouch. She fumbling through that. Neighbor from hell, smaller children, now is knuckling up with my younger siblings who are friends. So now friends having to, go toe to toe with each other. Because now it's a family. This is a family brawl. It is what it is, right? So sister from hell fumbling through a pouch, purse, or whatever. I'm seeing all of this go on, and I'm kind of trying to, get in where I fit in. You know what I'm saying? If you follow me, I'm trying to get in where I fit in. But everything is happening so quick. I think at that point, I started more so moving the smaller children away from the crowd, right? Like, y'all get in there, like y'all go over there. I'm kind of ordering the children to stand back, Sister from hell pulls out a can. And if y'all follow me, y'all follow me. She pulls out a can that, when the substance come out, once it touches skin in your eyes, it burns. If you know, you know. She pulls that out, and she just started to do her zigzag in the air. So much so to where she directly contacted Leo with the jalapeno spray. I'm going to call it jalapeno spray. She contacted directly Leo with the jalapeno spray. Now, mind you, Leo already can't see worth a darn. Leo wear contacts, but without them contacts, blind as a bat. I always have been since we were children. So the fact you done spray Leo in the eyes with this jalapeno spray, and Sagittarius and my mama is over here, ham sandwiching neighbor from hell. The group of kids is right here, and they are schoolyard brawling. It's just a lot going on. I see Leo take her shirt, rub it over her eyes, trying to correct her vision. But Leo also, too, is backing up while she doing it. So it appears to be Leo is trying to get out the harm's way of that jalapeno spray. But at the same time, trying to get her vision right. Where you got the thief and his family that came out the door, the mamas and the sisters, the same ones who would be running back telling us stuff about the neighbor from here. Oh, I don't like her. I don't know why my son messing with her. I hate the day he ever got her pregnant. But then you go run over there and tell her stuff we've been said about her. So they all run out the door because now it's the big thing. So Leo got her shirt, wiping her eyes, trying to get her vision together. And, again, I told y'all I had to be real careful with the words that I use, right? Not trying to get my content flagged, or banned, or, demonetized or nothing. So Leo reaches front back pocket. I don't know which way, but Leo reaches. And when Leo come up, Leo got the blicky. Okay. Now Leo aims the blicky, and a plume go off. And then after that, another plume go off. And then after that, another plume go off. So much so the sister from hell is now on the ground. So now you got screams, and you got people running from every which direction, because at least about 4 to 5 plumes on went off, right? Leo, you thought I was playing? Thought it was a game is what I'm hearing Leo say. You thought I was a game? You thought I was playing? You gonna spray that on me? Leo let off another one, plume, right? At this point, I see the thief in the middle of the field. I'm grabbing up children. I'm snatching up children, right? I see the thief in the middle of the field. Now, mind y'all, remember I told y'all in part either 1 or 2 how he broke in our house while we was in our sleep and robbed us blind like a thief in the night, right? And anybody should know by now, especially you, an adult in your right sound mind, know that what goes around comes around. Now, before I tell y'all about the thief, how he got his karma out there that night, let's get back to the sister from hell. Sister from hell, you on the ground. And while you on the ground, now you want to reveal that you are expecting a child. I'm pregnant, but nobody knew nothing about you were pregnant or nothing with it. When you came over here on this side of the field with your sister, ready to nut, ready to buck. You didn't say nothing about that stomach then, or that unborn child then, but all of a sudden now you on the ground begging for your life after you done sprayed this jalapeno spray in the air. And then, cause this big chaos, and you the reason why this brawl is going the way it's going. Because you didn't play fair from the beginning. Now you on the ground begging for your life, and you saying that you're unborn. Right? Well, this is how slow these people were. While the sister from hell is on the ground begging, you got neighbor from hell, hit her again. Hit her again. You bad is what she's telling Leo. Hit her again. If y'all know what I mean by hit, then y'all know. Hit her. You telling her to hit her again. Mind you, don't nobody know how many times the sister from hell done been hit. We just know she been hit. But the neighbor from hell, you bad. Hit her again. Hit her again. Wow, this girl who don't even have good vision at this moment, vision impaired, have a, hit her again. You got the thief in the middle of the field. Remember I told y'all, karma, what goes around comes around. Y'all got to stay tuned for part 7, okay? Part 6.
Are y'all gonna stay tuned for part 7? Because it's getting crazy. This ain't even it, but I'm telling you, like, it gets crazy. To hear it being like a brawl, family against family, is, listen, I can only imagine. But what do y'all think about the sister with the blicky? So you had the sister from hell, as she named her, that had that jalapeno, right? And after being sprayed, trying to get her sight back, you had Leo pulling out the blicky and started going off. Now, I'll say this, because there were kids there, that definitely, wasn't a good idea. But to be fair, if she felt like her life was threatened, I think most people wouldn't be like, oh, well, there was kids around, so I can't do X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like your first instinct will be to defend yourself. You're not thinking about, okay, well, who's here and what's going on and da 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 da. But this ish is insane. Ooh, wait till I give y'all the rest of it though, child. I know I was at the edge of my seat. Maybe I'm just nosy. Maybe it's just me. But y'all let me know what y'all think so far of this video in the comment section. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and again, make sure those thumbs are lit, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace.
Listen, I like chocolate girl, all shades, different flavors. She a diamond and a pearl. She a goddess with a mentor, yeah. Cinnamon swirl. She relate to what I've been through, yeah. Queen of my world.